Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Vice Presidential Debate Review. Now, before I start, I'm just going to say, just in case you don't know how a vice president is elected, unlike the president, who is elected by two ways, by the Electoral College and by the popular vote. And the popular vote is us. We, the people, are the ones who are the popular vote. We vote for the president, and that counts. But also, in each state, there's a certain thing called an electoral college, where basically there are votes for each state that from that electoral college also adds on to it. So they can't just be one-sided where a person who's elected in is just by the popular vote only, which is the voting for us. It has to be both. The electoral college and the popular vote gives you a proper number of how the president is elected. Now the vice president is different. He's elected by the House of Representatives, which is Congress and Senate, basically vote to see if this person, which is Paul Ryan or Joe Biden, should be elected with this president. Now, I don't believe that it's very rare that a vice president is not elected with their president, with their running mate. There might have been some exceptions over the last couple of 100 years. I can't tell you if it happened or not, but it's there for a reason. Now, let's get into this debate. They covered a lot of things. Libya, Iran, Afghanistan, the military. They covered Social Security, covered health care. They covered the economy. And I'm going to cover a bit of all of them if I can. I'm going to try and make it as easy as possible to understand because there was so much stuff in this debate. It's kind of hard to keep up with it because it can be very complicated. People can just lose track and then their eyes glaze over and they don't want to understand it because who cares? But this is important to know when you make this decision to vote on whoever you're going to vote. This is not about me telling you who you should vote for, but what I am saying is that you should at least understand what they're saying so then you can make a fair assessment instead of what I've been hearing from some people I've been listening in the street. If they don't call Obama basically a liar, they're calling basically Mitt Romney a devil. It's better to know what they're saying than just taking some type of point of being attacking like that. If you don't know what they're talking about, the person that looks like they don't know anything is not about either one of the candidates. It's you or me. I'm not saying you're dumb, ladies and gentlemen, but when you start calling people names, you really don't know anything. You need to understand what's being said before you say it, because if you ever have a conversation with somebody, they're going to attack you. They'll call you a poser for Romney or a poser for Obama. And it's better to know what you say, no matter if they hassle you or not. So let's get into this. The one thing they talked the most about was Afghanistan. I mean, they covered a lot of stuff, but Afghanistan was one of the things that was covered, and mostly in detail. And for both candidates, I have to say Paul Ryan may have won this one because and there's two reasons why I'm saying this. The first one is what Joe Biden said about the forces that are from NATO. Basically, I don't remember the abbreviation, but basically the pact between all the different governments that are under the United Nations, they came up with basically a coalition that helps cover for anything that's in Europe or Asia or Africa or Saudi Arabia or any other place in the world that's other than the United States. But essentially speaking is this: what Joe Biden said about there being 49 countries that is currently dealing in Afghanistan, while the troops that are from Afghanistan, the Afghani armed forces or the Afghani military, and there's about 300,000 to 400,000 of them. They're also there along with the troops, which can be about 60,000 to 70,000, I believe, that we have currently there. It could be between 30,000 to 60,000. I cannot be sure. But the thing that he didn't say is this, and neither one of them said this. The 49 countries that are there do not contribute the same amount of troops that we do. The United States government contributes several thousand troops, which is between, like I said, 30,000 to 70,000. The other countries can contribute between 300, say this again, 300 to maybe 5,000 troops. None of them have been contributing over 10. Some between 300, maybe more. Some go to 900. Some go to 1,000. I believe the UK has contributed maybe 3,000 troops there. So while our troops are being slaughtered, if you're going to say it like that, our NATO allies do not contribute the same amount as we do. And what Joe Biden said, that as our troops withdraw, the Afghanistan troops are supposed to step up, and he made it very clear with a piece of paper on the table, they're supposed to be stepping up. They're going to step up. This is what he didn't say as well. Next to the NATO forces having a very small group of contingency, which could be how much altogether? Maybe about 10, maybe 15,000 troops altogether from all 49 countries, if we're lucky to have it that high. The Afghani forces, and this has been documented on CNN, MSNBC, sorry, I'm kind of botching. I've been up over 15 hours now. But essentially, on all these different shows, if you hear about how the Afghani forces are doing, the Afghanistan forces, they have grown very large. But the thing is that when our troops are in their bases, and if they have been ordered to go into a certain province in Afghanistan, many cases this is the way it goes. The base commander sends a message to the Afghanistan military command to make a request for contingency of soldiers to also accompany our soldiers. Now at first, it's understood that the Afghanistan military was very small and very unorganized, so the numbers were not even. Of course, when the numbers started to grow, they started bringing them in. But this is the thing that many people don't understand, and Joe Biden didn't say anything. The Afghanistan military has their own agenda and decisions by their Afghanistan president. The Afghanistan president, for I understand, has told his military generals not to put that many officers out or soldiers. So let's say 100 of our troops are supposed to go to a province and do a patrol for the next 3 days. This is just a scenario, it's not the truth. If it has happened, I'm shocked I even knew. But essentially is this: if 100 soldiers are sent out for 2 days to do a patrol of a province, 100 soldiers of the Afghan military or Afghan army is also, in some cases, are supposed to come. But if the Afghanistan military command says they're not going to give that many soldiers, then what happens to our own soldiers, particularly if normal numbers of a group of soldiers, it could be, I believe, a platoon of soldiers that goes and does go to a patrol province, it could be maybe 50, 30, or 100. If they don't get support from the Afghanistan military, they're on their own. And what Paul Ryan was saying, that since we scaled down our amounts of soldiers, a contingency of soldiers that was supposed to be 100 could now be 60. And if you need 100 soldiers to do a proper job, and you only got 60, and maybe when you're supposed to get 100 soldiers from the Afghanistan military, and you're only getting 30, what happens here? Who loses out? Is it going to be Afghan military, who basically, since they're Afghan soldiers, if things get dangerous, they can easily pull out? The ones that's in the lead is usually United States military. You could say that fighting is wrong, warmongering, you can say whatever you want, but at this moment, we have people that are there. So essentially speaking, it's totally lopsided. So it makes no sense to do that. Neither one brought that little fact up, which is sad. It's important to bring that up. So Paul Ryan didn't really say that. He should have, but he didn't. Joe Biden, if he knew this, of course he's not going to say it, because it would really weaken his position. So at that point, because of those two facts, Paul Ryan won that part of the debate. Now, when it came to Libya, this is where things really broke down for Joe Biden. And this was the very beginning of the debate with, I believe, Martha Ravis. I believe I'm pronouncing her name properly. Hopefully I am. If I'm not, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. But when it came to Libya, when Joe Biden basically said that the intelligence community said that this was a protest, that this was because of a video that was on YouTube, and that's the reason why the man died, was totally inaccurate. And I believe that either he was not briefed on this more properly, or that he was lying clearly. Now, the reason I believe that he either was not briefed or that he was lying is simple. After the ambassador was at Libya, who basically he died along with 3 other people, which is so sad. And my condolences to the family. Really. What happened is that the military came in, and investigators came in and collected all the things that belonged to the ambassador, and a book was found, which was in the ambassador's handwriting, which more than stated that he made a request to the United States to ask for a contingency of, basically, as they stated, Marines. That request was actually sent. Now, the thing that not many people understand, if I'm correct, is that when a request is sent, it isn't just going to the UN. This is going directly to the United States government. And usually this falls under the, basically, either the Joint Chiefs or basically the Secretary of State, which is Hillary Clinton. Now, what I understand right now with what Barack Obama is doing at this moment is that he has his Joint Chiefs, along with the Secretary of State, which is Hillary Clinton, have their meetings during the day, and they bring up everything, including what's going on in Libya, what also goes on with their ambassador. Now, the request was sent for troops, and the ambassador request was denied. Now, the thing is this, which totally destroys what happened to Joe Biden's position. You see, every year since September 11th, every place that we've ever had, and every person we've ever had, no matter if you believe that it was Bush, or if it's basically Barack Hussein Obama, they had made sure that everywhere has increased security, no matter if the budget covers it or not. Now, the problem is this. If we had the ability to send those people, possibly the Secretary of State and the Joint Chiefs, along with the Vice President and President, had to know something. It was obvious that if they're having, right now, they're having committee meetings and they're having inquiries about what's going on, it's going to be found that basically the Joint Chiefs of Staff and more than possibly the Secretary of State will be found guilty of this, because that order had to go to them because of the situations going in Libya, because every information is usually given to the President. It isn't just left up to someone else. It usually must go on his table or be in his meetings. So Joe Biden really had a very weak position on this, and when Paul Ryan said that if we had, right before September 11th, our ambassador in France gets a contingency of Marines, how come our ambassador in Libya could not get a contingency of Marines? He's right. No matter how you feel about war, if you agree with it or disagree with it, anyone who's from our own people who has that type of position must be protected. If it's the president, they're going to send everyone. So the ambassador is no different. So Paul Ryan won that one as well. Medicare and Social Security. The way that was described, unfortunately for many people not going to like this, Paul Ryan won that debate as well, part of the debate as well. When it came to basically Medicare and also Medicaid, I myself, I know this better than most people. You see, I used to work in a nursing home. Unfortunately, I've been badly injured and I'm not able to walk right now. I have a bad leg. So essentially right now, I can't work anymore, but I worked in a nursing home. And what Paul Ryan said about the budget being cut, I've seen it. I've seen patients who were in a nursing home who had to be removed due to the fact that their Medicaid or the Medicare could not cover for their expenses anymore. They had to be sent to another nursing home or sent home. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. If you can't afford Medicare and you can't afford Medicaid, if it's been reduced, whatever you get is either going to be reduced or you're going to lose it. In my understanding of the people I knew, these are co-workers of mine who were also union members. I was $11.99 at one point, people who worked in housekeeping, people who worked in nursing. And I worked in the kitchen. People worked in kitchen. They couldn't keep their direct positions. They got reduced to part-time. And other people had to be released because they weren't getting the same money in from the people who were coming in. And the budget they get from Medicaid was also reduced. I'm not saying this to make Paul Ryan better. I'm saying this because I worked in a nursing home. I won't say the nursing home because I can get myself in trouble. I have a case against them right now because of my injury. But essentially, I've seen it. So for Medicare, it's the same thing as Medicaid. Paul Ryan won that debate. When it came to Social Security, both gave very good arguments. But unfortunately, Joe Biden's argument was not correct. What was stated by Paul Ryan, sorry. I've been up for a while now. Basically, what he's talking about is for people that are my age and under. I'm currently 41. If you think I look young, thank you very much. I'm thankful that I'm young looking, but I'm 41 years old. Anyone under my age or my age, the Social Security will change. For anyone, and I wish to say this clearly what was stated, I can't say that this is going to happen. It could change if Ryan and Romney goes into office. If it does not change, this is what they said, what Paul Ryan said, that basically for anyone, and this is 40, nearing 50, under here, it's supposed to change. Anyone who's 55 and above, who's about to retire, no change. This is not affecting anyone. This will not affect not one person who's above 55. Anyone who's under 55, by the time you reach into your 60s, that is when it's going to change. This is what was stated, this is what's stated and understood when it comes to Social Security and also coming to Medicare. Both the same thing. Both Ryan and Romney are stating that they want to make an option for people that would be private. People are saying a voucher. Now, if it's a voucher or if it's not a voucher, the way it's supposed to be structured, this is what they're stating, is that for people who are nearing 65, who currently are 55, this will not apply to them. Anyone that's in my age bracket, they will be given an option. Either you can still have the classic Medicare and the classic Social Security, or you can get the alternative one that possibly would be mostly, not completely, but mostly motivated by basically the stock market. And I know a lot of people are saying, oh, that ain't going to work. But the problem is that if the government cannot afford it, where do you get the money from? The only other place you can get it is from the stock market. That's the reason why so many people had 401ks before they went under. 401ks were very good because they followed the stock market. Now people get 403bs. That is an adjustment. That's completely separate from the job. 401ks was connected to the job. No longer. Now the option is supposed to be partially or not connected to the United States government. It's still a gray line if it's going to be partially connected to it or completely devoted to the economy and to the stock market. That's going to be hopefully clarified more. But my guess is that it's going to be mostly stock market. The other half is going to be motivated by the United States government. So it's going to be partially paid for. Whatever you get in Social Security is going to go into an account. And the other half of it is going to be motivated by the stock market. It'll go up and it'll go down. That's what has been stated. Now, Joe Biden really didn't say that it was right. He said it was wrong. He said people are going to lose everything and that people who are this age are going to lose everything because of doing that. But it was stated by Paul Ryan clearly. And a lot of people may say that he wasn't clear about it. He was. He said anyone under 55, this will affect them. Anybody above 55, it will not affect them. So that is as clear as can be. So I'm going to leave it at that. Now, Iran. Now, this is the thing I believe that Joe Biden really made a big mistake. Honestly. This was a big mistake. What Joe Biden said was that he agreed with Paul Ryan saying they do have the material and they're doing the centrifuges, but he said, unlike Paul Ryan, saying that they're 4 years closer to a nuclear bomb. Joe Biden said that they may be more closer to a nuclear bomb, but they have no bomb because they don't have the... Basically, how a nuclear bomb works, you can put it on a missile or you can build it into a mobile device that can still be exploded. Either way, doesn't make a difference. He said they don't have the equipment to make that. But that makes no sense. You can't say that a person has something that could become dangerous if they get the rest of the parts, if the main part of it is the most dangerous part. Now, what do I mean by this? I'll give it to you in this respect. To make a gun work, a regular standard gun, you need basically a pistol that will fire the projectile. Then you need the slug for the projectile. In other words, that's the lead solid part of it. If you see a bullet, if anyone's ever seen what a bullet looks like, you have the slug, which is basically lead. Then you have the casing, which is usually metal or aluminum. And then inside, you have the black powder, which is they call smokeless now. They don't use it like it did 100 years ago. It's different. And then at the end, you have a igniting cap or blasting cap, basically, whatever you want to call it. But basically, that's how it works. But the thing is, no matter if you don't have the slug, the casing, or the blasting cap, or the primer cap, or whatever you call it, or the gun itself, if you have the black powder, you can do something with that. You can make a bomb out of just black powder. That's how they used to do it 100 years ago. TNT was mainly, beforehand, black powder. Before TNT, they used black powder. I'm sorry. TNT, trioxyinolate, I can't pronounce it. I forgot the name of it. I'm sorry. Before they had TNT, they had simple black powder. They can make a gun out of a piece of metal tubing. Something that isn't uncommon. You can put a ball bearing, and I'm not trying to make people understand to just start trying to shoot people like that, but essentially you could make a gun. You could, out of just metal parts. Nuclear material is so dangerous, even if you manage to produce it, it's so dangerous that you can do anything with it other than putting it into a nuclear missile. And what a nuclear missile? It's basically a rocket or a missile, as they call it, that is guided, that has a core in it with the nuclear material with it. What explodes the nuclear material is a high explosive. You can do that on a car. Yes, it would be big, but it's not impossible to be done. You could drive it somewhere and explode it. So what Joe Biden said was so inaccurate, it's really bad. He said they're not dangerous because they don't have the parts to make a bomb. It's wrong. As long as they have the material to make the bomb become radioactive, it doesn't make a difference if they're going to build a missile or put it into a car. It'll still do the same thing. Once it explodes, it'll kill everyone in there and irradiate everyone. So Joe Biden really made a serious mistake with this. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about is the attitude between the two, basically the two candidates. Paul Ryan basically was showing a lot more respect than Joe Biden. Joe Biden, and this is what was said clearly on MSNBC, CNN, Fox News. It's going to be said on ABC, NBC, and I'm sure CBS if they show it. He was laughing, he was sneering, he was grinning, he was showing a lot of teeth. He was basically over-talking Paul Ryan, and the only time when Paul Ryan tried to talk over him is when he was already talking over him. He showed a large chunk of disrespect. Now, this is what they're all talking about on all those shows, that he was showing such, basically, such a bad attitude may turn the people off. And Paul Ryan was showing a lot of respect, including at the end of the debate when they were doing their closing arguments, when Paul Ryan said, "I thank you very much" to Joe Biden. Joe Biden just dismissed him and sneered at him again. This is where I think Joe Biden made a serious mistake. Because of what happened with Barack Obama. Because you can believe whatever you want if he was really not, like Al Gore said, because he was at 5,000 feet and he had it adjusted to the altitude, which makes no sense because he wasn't breathing heavy. He was still able to think very properly. Some people say he really wasn't prepared. Maybe he didn't work hard enough on his preparation. Some people believe that this was not the proper venue for him. He was not comfortable. Some people say he needed a teleprompter. You can believe whatever you want. I'm not saying what I believe. This is not about me. But essentially speaking is this. Joe Biden basically had to go out there and perform as hard as possible to make the vice president debate as much makeup for Barack Hussein Obama as possible. And he tried too hard. He tried way too hard. Because if he hadn't tried so hard, maybe he would have had much better results. All these facial features, I'm sure is going to turn people off. Really. No matter if you like Joe Biden a lot or not. If you like Joe Biden a lot, fine. If you don't like him, fine. But that type of attitude is going to turn people off. And because of it, I believe he made a serious mistake. And I believe out of 100%, maybe Joe Biden got about 50% of this. No, 47% of this. And I believe that Paul Ryan got 53% of this. So if you're going to say it, Paul Ryan got maybe 3% more. So he just edged them out. I'm not saying Joe Biden doesn't have a lot of good points, but essentially speaking, Paul Ryan beat him on this. So if you agree with me or not, I understand that, but I'm just giving you a fair assessment of what was said. So I hope you like this Zane's View. Subscribe and comment. I'm going to try and do the next presidential debates if I'm not really too busy. And I hope you enjoyed this Zane's View, and you have a good night.